G'day mates, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going through the best loadout choices for Chapter 2 Season 4 in Fortnite. There are so many new items added and I get asked so many times, what's the best loadout? What shotgun should I run? Should I run crash pads, shockwaves? I'm going to answer all of that today. And not am I just doing that for solos, I'm also going to do it for trios. So I'm going to help out with those arguments that you have with your friends of who should be carrying what and what are the best items. Because honestly, there's some combination items right now that make rotating in trios so much easier. And if you are not doing them, you are missing out massively. People are worried that launch pads are gone. You don't even need them anymore. If you stick through to the end of the video and you take some of the tips I have for rotating by combining things like shockwaves and bounce pads, you're going to do so ridiculously well. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please chuck a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This should be my third day in a row of uploading a video every single day for Season 4. So I really hope you guys are enjoying it and I hope you enjoy the video. Now with solo loadouts, you have more variety than you've ever had before. So this is hard. There isn't just one best loadout. It's going to be what you prefer, but there are definitely some combinations of loadouts and some items in general that'll suit different playstyles. So I kind of want to go through those now as well. So to answer the simple question at the start about which shotgun to run, I find this is a little bit personal preference between the pump and the charge, but I'm leaning towards the pump. The pump obviously has no charge up. You can just instantly take your shot. You can finish someone off. It's just a lot faster, a lot more versatile. It has more bullets in the chamber. It's just, I think it's better right now. But if you are comfortable with the charge and you're particularly good with it, there's some situations where the charge is definitely better because it does hit more consistent shots if you can charge it up. Honestly, right now, I think the combat is super weak. So I'd be running the pump. And then if I can't run a pump, I'll run a charge, but I'll almost never run a combat. It's just kind of if I pick it up, and even then, half the time SMGs do more damage than combats. They just 50 to the body is just not enough. 4 shots to eliminate a player on full health, full shield with a shotgun just isn't it. So for the rest of the loadout now, it's going to depend on how aggressive you want to play. I think honestly, the best item in the game right now to play aggressively is the Boogie Bomb. 7 seconds to keep you dancing for with the massive radius it has. If you get high ground on someone and you go for a side peek, bait them into thinking you're going for a shotgun shot and just hit a boogie bomb on like a stair or a wall near them, it's a guaranteed kill. If you have someone boogie bombed in the current meta and you have a pump or a charge shotgun and you don't kill them, you threw massively. It is the best aggressive item in the game right now and you can stack so many of them. After that, if you're still looking to play aggressive, I'd be running the crash pads as your third slot because right now, same as last season, crash pads are still so free to get inside someone's box. You should already know them by now, but if you don't already know the 2 main ways to get into someone's box, or I guess 3 with the crash pads, the easiest being, if you're above someone, you have high ground, put a stair outside their box connected to their roof and cone, throw the crash pad on that, fall in, free elimination almost every time. The second one is obviously just walking up to their wall, throwing on the wall, and then crash padding through the wall into their box. Or you have the corner one. Build a 1x1 that's on the corner of their 1x1, walk up to the corner, throw the crash pad, diagonally go in. It's insanely strong too. So those are my 2 main choices aggressively. The reason I don't have shockwaves in there is because unless you've been using the caddy launcher a lot, shockwave phase-ins are a lot harder than crash pads, and shockwaves are harder to find. So I would find that if you're going to W key, crash pads are a lot better option. But if you want to play defensively, that's where shockwaves are better. Shockwaves are 100% better defensively. They shoot you further, they shoot you faster, they break more builds more consistently. It's harder to get your head stuck on them. So if you're in a fight and you want to disengage, shockwaves are 100% the way to go. Now, when I talk about combinations, this is where it gets interesting. So shockwaves combined with bounce pads and crash pads combined with bounce pads are huge. If you haven't seen my video I put out yesterday with tips and tricks, go watch it to know exactly how to pull off these maneuvers. They're insane. But if you're going to play defensively and you're going to be a little bit more slow at setting things up, setting up a shockwave and a bounce pad is so much easier than setting up a bounce pad and a crash pad. So also though, things to consider. One of the main things I think that's going to come into a solos meta when it comes to loadout right now is the insane fish. Now, again, in my tips and tricks video yesterday, you don't have to watch it for this though. It's super simple. People don't realize yet that you can use the boat missiles to break out little spawns of fish in the pools and you get 3 fish or more every time you do it. It's ridiculous. If you find 5 little fishing holes and you have a boat, you're about to get 15 fish. And that's where you can pull off some insane combinations. Now, right now, one of the best combinations in the game is Shockwave with the pop fish. Now, the pop fish, I believe that's what it's called. Hop fish, maybe. Either way, it's the purple fish that gives you the bouncing animation like hop rocks. If you eat that to give yourself low gravity and then you use shockwaves, you go so far. And that is definitely a defensive combo I would be running. If you have the opportunity to get a whole bunch of fish, I would be running shockwaves and the hop fish over the spicy fish. The spicy fish is good. It's like the pepper, but honestly, the hop fish when combined with the shockwave is phenomenal. However, if you can only carry one thing, you don't have shockwaves, let's say you have crash pads, I would run the spicy fish. So those are kind of the loadout choices you have right now. Obviously, you can work sniper rifles in there for your solo loadouts as well, but ideally, your loadout should look like an AR of your choice, whether it be burst or a regular AR. It doesn't matter too much. It depends usually on your input. Controller players preferring the burst rifle, especially close range, a little bit more. I prefer to run a regular AR, a pump rifle. If I'm going aggressive, crash pads and then double meds. If I'm going defensive though, I'll run shockwaves and double meds. So again, that's where those choices come in that I've been talking about. If I get my hands on some bounce pads as well, I'm almost definitely running shockwaves even if I want to play offensive, because with the shockwaves and the bounce pads, I can now get around the map more. So again, when it comes to meds though, meds haven't changed too much with your choices. If you're going the fishing route I talked about earlier, try to carry as many fish as you can, because honestly, they're ridiculous. You've now got shield fish, you've got slurp fish, you've got floppers, you have jellyfish. There's so many med fish that you can carry. And honestly, again, just carry the ones that are going to give you more overall health and shield. With regular meds though, for your 2 med slots, same as usual. I'd run minis and splashes if I can. If I can't run mini and splashes, I'll run minis and bigs. Pretty much whichever one you have more of. Nothing's crazy changed there. But where it gets interesting, let's talk about trios now, because some of those combinations of items I've talked about are even more important. But what I really want to talk about is which player should be carrying in a trio. What should the leader have? What should the fragger have? Because that's what you guys ask me about a lot, and I really want to make sure I cover it. Now let's talk about trio loadouts, and this is where it gets pretty crazy, and it's going to be like a little bit harder to explain, but I'll try and keep it as simple as I possibly can. For this one, you're going to want to make sure that you have the combinations of utility on the IGL. So again, weird sentence, I'll break it down. So the combinations of utility. So when I just talked about in solo loadouts, using things like the pop fish, using things like the bounce pads and the shockwaves, you should have your leader, the IGL, the person who makes the decisions of when you're going to rotate and where you're going to go. They should be holding most of the mobility. They should be holding the shockwaves and the bounce pads at least. And you should have those between the teams. If you don't have shockwaves and bounce pads, they could hold the crash pads and the bounce pads. Just the main goal here is you want to have the person who's going to make the decision about when you're rotating to have the items that are going to help you rotate. It makes sense, but also your in-game leader is normally the one who has the most calm under pressure, and is the one who's going to decide where you're going to crash pad out of, where you're going to shockwave out of. So they get to set up the shockwaves. Now, the shockwave bounce pad trick that I put in my tips and tricks yesterday, you should 100% go watch it if you haven't. It is insane for trios. It is the current best way to rotate possible. However, if you don't have bounce pads, I'm going to put a little clip here of another old school way you can use shockwaves to make sure the whole trio goes in the same direction rather than going different split up ways. Now, because you also want the IGL or the leader to have all the utility, that means you want your fragger to have the best weapons too. So if your fragger can hold on to 1 or 2 meds, which gives them the ability to then run AR, shotgun, SMG, this is what you want to look at. So one of the best loadouts I can think of across the board for trios, and again, it depends on the trio, depends on the roles. If you have a IGL, who is also the tarper, we've talked about this. If you haven't watched my trio videos, go check them out. And you have a support fragger and a fragger, the way I would break down those loadouts ideally as simple as possible is I would have the IGL, the leader. I would make sure that they have the assault rifle, a shotgun, and then I try to get them to either carry double utility and then one med slot, or carrying 1 utility and double meds. Again, utility is anything like shockwaves, crash pads, like anything that helps you move. The fish rocks, anything like that, peppers, those kind of things. Now, I would have my support fragger usually carry shotgun, AR, either 1 utility or a sniper rifle, and then double meds. Again, the support player is the one that's going to be in between the front and the back side. The support player in most teams is actually the safest player. They're the one who usually goes down the least because they don't have the risks of being at the front of the tarp where the tarper can get caught or sprayed out, and they don't have the risk of being the fragger at the back who can get caught out by someone just cycling into their box. So normally I like to keep 2 meds on the support player, because if something something goes wrong, they then can drop back to their fragger if something goes wrong at the front, or they can run forward to the front tapper if something goes wrong at the back. So having them with their meds helps, but also it lets them go on and solo clutch. Some of the best solo clutches you see is usually when the support fragger, both their teammates go down and they start playing solo and they have all the meds. So that's usually ideal for them. Now the fragger, this is where the fragger pretty much let them have whatever weapons they want. If the fragger's best with a SCAR, give them the SCAR. If they want to hold on to a sniper rifle because they're going to get picks endgame, go for that as well. The fragger can hold on to 3, sometimes even 4 weapons, but what I would normally suggest is having the fragger have an AR, a shotgun, an SMG if they want it, or have aggressive utility. Give them the pepper, give them maybe the crash pads or the shockwaves so they can get in and get eliminations, as long as your IGL and Tapa has their own utility. Does that make sense? You want to make sure they have rotational items themselves because they're going to be most important to them. But endgame, if you've got spare crash pads, give them to the fragger. Let him jump in some boxes and destroy some people and then crash pad to front side if he needs it. That's kind of the way you want to go with trio loadouts. All right, guys, that does it for another video. As you know, if you haven't already, please chuck a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't. I'm trying to hit 100K by the end of the year. This is my 3rd day in a row of doing daily uploads on the best content I can make for season 4, and it's going to keep coming. I have a drop spot video coming soon. I have a full trio guide for the new season, everything you could ask for. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Thank you so much for watching the video and supporting the content. It means the world to me, and I'll see you in the next one.